I call the special board meeting to order, and I want to thank everyone for participating in this special meeting. And first, we're going to address agenda item number 1, report from college going rate, and Ms. Sonia Hazelwood will be presenting this.
Good afternoon. Today's first agenda item is the annual report on the college going rate of Arkansas public high school graduates. The methodology. Each fall, AHECB receives data from the Arkansas Department of Education on the most recent public high school graduating class. We link this data to our student information system to calculate the annual college going rate. The methodology for this year's report focuses on students meeting the following criteria. They graduated from an Arkansas public school district in academic year 2016-17, were reported in SIS as first-time entering college students in the fall 2017 term, and they were reported as an Arkansas resident. This methodology has been in place since 2010 and follows that used by the National Center for Education Statistics, somewhat. I'll add the somewhat there. However, there are several differences. NCES filters by the age range 16 through 24. AHECB ignores age, as most of our high school graduates already meet this criteria. NCES also includes GED recipients in their counts. AHECB does not have complete GED recipient data. Since the NCES report is based on a survey, it will include private high school graduates and homeschool students. AHECB has no data on annual graduating classes of private high school students or homeschool students. With these data limitations, the college going rate calculations provided in this report are for Arkansas public high school graduates only. I'm going to start off with a slide because this is what everybody wants to see, which is the comparison to the national college going rate. I'm going to caution you that you really can't compare these. I put the slide in because it's always been part of this annual report to the board. I would probably, in the future, consider not even including it. The numerator and denominator included for the national rate and the Arkansas rate are so different that there's really nothing that even constitutes the ability to even compare the two. NCES actually uses data collected for the Bureau of Labor Statistics that goes out to citizens to collect data, and so students can actually attend institutions out of state. We don't have data for students, for our students that decide to go to institutions out of state. And as I mentioned in the prior slide, also the students that graduate from a private high school are not included in our data, and also high school students. Thanks. So there's just lots of issues with the comparing the two rates. Everybody always wants to compare, so I did leave these two on here. But by no means are we more than 20 points behind the national college going rate. We're missing a lot of data points that would raise our rate. So please keep that in mind. The college going rate 5-year review. Arkansas Public High Schools experienced a 5.4% increase in the number of high school graduates when comparing 2012-13 to 2016-17. This increase, however, did not improve the college going rate of first-time entering students to an Arkansas institution of higher education. The college going rate of public high school graduates declined 3.2% from 51.4% to 48.2%, when comparing 2012-13 to 2016-17 public high school graduates. The percent of high school graduates engaged in higher education by institution type for the last 5 fall terms. Over 5 years, the share of the college going rate students at four-year universities decreased from 30.7% in 2013 to 29.1%. The share of college going rate students at two-year colleges has decreased from 18% to 16.9% in 2017. The share of the college going rate students at private institutions has decreased from 2.7% in the fall 13 to 2.2% in fall of 17. (2017) fall college going rate by institution type. For the 15,000 public high school graduates, the majority enrolled in public four-year universities. This represents a decrease of 0.5 percentage point for four-year universities compared to the fall 2016 entering class, an increase of 3.4% for the two-year colleges, and a decrease of 3.2% for private institutions from last year's college going rate cohort by institution type. Gender. The college going rate for Arkansas high school graduates has declined for both male and female students the past 3 years. The table at the top, for male students, you can see the past 3 years, the college going rate for the 2014-15 students was 45.8% for the male students, and this most recent year was 42.3%. The female students saw a similar decline. Their 2014-15 college going rate was 56%, and they declined 2 percentage points to 54% for 2016-17. I did go ahead and provide the NCES data. NCES reported the male students for the 2014-15 year showed an increase to the 2015-16 cohort from 65.5% to 67%. The female students showed a 0.5 percentage point decline. These are just the data from the prior slide shown in graphical form so you can see the trends easier. The top left shows the Arkansas high school graduates, and you can see the decline in the male students and the decline for the female students. And then the graph at the bottom right provides you the decline for the male and female students that's reported by NCES. Or I'm sorry, the raise for the male students and then the decline for the female students. For race and ethnicity, the 2016-17 college going rates for Arkansas high school graduates has declined for several races compared to the 15-16 rates. The Asian students showed a decline of 5.1%, and the black students decreased 5.3% over last year's college going rate cohort. The Native American, Alaskan Native students had the largest one-year rate increase of 3.3%. I did provide what NCES had available. They did not have the same breakdown for race available on their website. NCES reported 2015-16 college going rates for U.S. high school graduates has declined for Asian and black students when compared to the 2014-15 rates. The college going rates for Hispanic and white students both had modest increases. This chart shows you that of the students for the 2016-17 college going rate cohort, these are the number of students that entered our four-year institutions in the fall of 2017. Now keep in mind, this is not the institution's entire first-time entering group. These are just those that graduated from an Arkansas public high school. And we have a similar chart for the two-year schools.
Sonia, can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
That's all right, Mr. Chairman. Going back a couple, I'm sorry that I'm slow to jump in here, but on the comparison to the national versus our average, I know you said the first chart you put up is not very comparable because it essentially, I assume most of it is we're admitting private and homeschool children. Is that right?
For our data? Well, ours is, we're admitting that those that attended a private high school, those that received a GED, those that were homeschooled, and then those that attended a college or university at an out-of-state institution.
Okay, whereas the national numbers do include...
The national numbers may include those, yes. It's all based on a survey, so it's hard to determine what they have exactly.
Gotcha. So our going rate is down, but I guess my first question is the number of, do we at least have access to the data? We may have graduation rates, but do we know what percentage of our public school population is homeschool and private, and is that number up, down, or the same? And where I'm going with that question is if private school, private high school, and homeschooling, if that is becoming a higher percentage of our total population, then that may explain why this number is low. I mean, maybe it's not realistically lower. Do you see where I'm going with that?
I do. And we don't have the data, but I know the homeschool numbers are going up just from what I hear, and I'm assuming the private high school numbers are going up as well. But I don't have any numbers to back that up. But
So Department of Education on the public school side can't provide us that information?
You know, I don't know if they would collect anything on that or how they would get that information. I don't know.
Okay. Interesting. And then my next question is, again, on that same first graph, again, comparing the national to ours. I know you say it's not comparable, but is the trend significant? In other words, or is the variance between the two significant? I realize that, you know, a 69 versus a 49, that's not directly comparable, but is the fact that the trend doesn't seem very positive in terms of the difference between the national average and their state average seems to be increasing. Is that significant?
I'm trying to get there.
You can't compare the two directly, but the fact that you know, we start at 14, I think it's around 14%, you know, 14 points difference, and now we're at 20. Is that significant?
That the points are what?
In other words, in 2013 in the fall, there's about a 14-point spread between the national and the state average. I know you can't compare the two, but the fact that now we're 20 points difference, is that trend significant? Does that mean something? In other words, I know you're saying well, maybe we shouldn't pay a lot of attention to this chart, but should we pay attention to the fact that that trend is not positive? Does that mean something?
Well, it's hard to know. I mean, you know, we kind of expected our trend to trend negative with the economy. It's really hard to know. I mean, theirs is based purely on survey data that goes out to individual households. So the data that's collected on self-reported information, It's just hard to know.
Okay.
Are charter schools included in the high school?
I would assume the public charter schools would be, yes.
You're not sure about homeschool?
Right.
or the
I don't,
private schools?
yeah, I don't believe that those are.
Sonia, a couple of years ago, when this data was presented, not by you, but somebody else, I called, a half dozen of the private schools, the largest ones in the state, Catholic, Pulaski Academy, Shiloh Christian, and I forgot, maybe 6 or 7 of them. Yeah, and they were all running about 90% college going rate. And so I'm assuming if we got those numbers in, that would make us look much more attractive than we look right now.
Yep.
Because there are more private schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my point. Is I wonder how really significant this is.
Exactly.
I'm not sure how much weight to put on this because we're missing a pretty important piece of data.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I wonder what this really means, I guess, is.
And I would agree with not quite sure exactly what it's telling us.
I think
Yep.
Kevin's point is right. If going back to 2013, as the spread, the delta gets bigger.
Right.
I mean, that's obviously important. Assuming we had the same kind of students in 13 that we had in 2017 in this study, wow, that's a significant change.
But if your mix of private and homeschools is increasing, that also makes that spread
Yeah.
significant potentially because you don't know that information. So,
You're right.
thanks for humoring me, Sonia. I'm just
Sure.
curious.
Follow up on that, did I also hear you say, though, that this does not capture students that go to college outside the state?
Not in our data, correct.
And so is that a growing trend?
Those are better students too, yeah.
Yes, that to me
That'd be
means even more for our state. if
Another
that
percentage
delta
we're
is-
missing, yes. Other questions?
The overall college attendance, I know that they were growing for a time, but now it's decreasing, is it not? So, that's an important mistake. Go ahead. You're saying that you were growing.
All right, the last slide that I have is a slide on STEM majors. The following tables provide STEM major information for the 2016-17 high school graduates who entered a public institution in the fall of 17. The first table uses the original STEM program list, and the second table includes zip codes added to the previous STEM list during the productivity funding model implementation process last year. The tables below provide the top 6 4-year and top 6 2-year institutions based on a number of college-going rate cohort STEM majors. Now, if you'll take a look, I included the table on the left. That was the table that had been used historically for this agenda item, the old Department of Homeland Security ICE definition for STEM. And as you can see, the total count for the 4-year institutions was 1,713 of the college-going rate cohort were found to be majoring in a STEM program. If you move over to the table on the right for the 4-year institutions, using the new productivity funding model definition, that changed to 2,812 STEM majors. So a significant increase using the new definition. For the 2-year institutions, using the old definition, 229 students were identified as majoring in a STEM program. Under the productivity definition, there were 569 STEM majors. I do want to also point out that these numbers are based on an 11th day Census Day head count, and often students do not declare majors, particularly first-time entering students don't declare till 2 or 3 months into a semester. So I believe that these numbers are even underestimated on the actual number that are enrolled in STEM programs. And unfortunately, being that we collect data based on an 11th day, there's really no way for us to get an accurate count here. So these are underestimated. But I can say, too, that going forward, any agenda item that we have that has a STEM component we will always, at least going forward, use the productivity definition from here on out. That's all I have. Do y'all have any more questions?
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 2, report of annual revenue or faculty performance. Dr. Jesse Walker.
Good evening. So the first item here, each year we collect in end of May, beginning of June, the faculty performance report from institutions in the state. The report attempts to gather information on 3 factors, particularly in terms of faculty performance, student ratings, artifacts produced by the faculty, and then also external perspectives that can come from peer reviews, self-evaluations, and so forth. So the items that have come out this year as gleaned from those reports indicate that, 1, the institutions have increased their emphasis on unique advising techniques, particularly intrusive advising, also academic coaching and mentoring. Also, they have increased emphasis on assessing student outcomes in every aspect of the student's learning process in universities and college here in the state. This includes capstones projects, e-portfolios, and rubrics. Also, there have been a lot of quantitative and qualitative elements added to the faculty performance rating scale at institutions. This includes the use of technology in the classroom as well as English language, which has been a core component of this report each year. And also they have implemented accent reduction programs and English as a second language programs. Any questions about that agenda item? Okay. Agenda item number 3 is the academic program review that's conducted each year. It is due at the agency end of May, 1st of June. This is required under Board Policy 5.12. So, real quickly, institutions have 2 mechanisms for academic program review. The first one is an internal academic program review, a self-study. This is conducted internally. It consists of these elements: curriculum, program faculty, program resources, program assessment, and program effectiveness in terms of student outcomes. The second one is external review that can be conducted by outside expert, normally 2. One is normally a reader that doesn't have to come to campus. The second one normally has to attend the campus and actually review the program on site. And these are the elements that are assessed with that. One point of note, this year we implemented a new review template for external reviewers. Any program that is accredited by an accrediting body does not require a self-study review or an external review. It's conducted by the accrediting body. So in terms of academic program review this year, we had a total of 390 academic program reviews. We had 4 institutions that were listed as outliers this year who did not complete any program reviews. This was because of administrative changes and other elements that the institution notated for us. These academic program reviews that were missed this year will be rolled into academic year 18-19. So, and that's a total of 390, and I did read them all, so it was a fun experience. The next item, the final agenda item, is program viability. And these are the standards set by the board for program viability. We're reporting this kind of in a different way this year in terms of the overall programs listed at viability in the entire catalog we have in academic affairs. Currently, for 4 institutions, we have 15 number of programs on the books that includes APs, CPs, associate degrees, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and PhDs. Of that listed as non-viable in the final report listed in your book, only 4 programs are listed as non-viable. Now, there were 15 additional programs that were early on considered as non-viable, but we worked with the institution to develop plans. Those plans are documented in the forms of letters submitted to the agency. Those programs will be monitored over the course of the upcoming year in terms of graduation trends, in terms of enrollment trends, and they will indicate to us whether or not to put the programs back on the non-viable list next year. We had 1 program that was up for deletion. The non-viable programs in the inventory of the agency that are non-viable represent less than 1% of the programs. Now, of course, this is a component of the productivity formula. Also, at 2 institutions, we have 1353 programs on the books, and only 48 were listed as non-viable. That number actually was greater, closer to 100, but working with institutions, we were able to lessen that number a great deal. So the overall number represents less than 4% of the programs are listed as non-viable. And that number is expected to shrink even further, hopefully next year, because of the productivity formula. Are there any questions about that agenda item?
Any questions for
Okay.
That concludes our agenda. Dr. Walker, if you have any words, we're going to go to dinner tonight. And we do have our agenda book for tomorrow, so if the board will need to take these and study them tonight. Well, I mean, do I hear a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second. All in favor, stand up. Thank you. All right, yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. The construction that we have, in case you haven't noticed, the Maple Street between Garland and Razorback Road is closed for construction. So if you would just go north on Garland, take Cleveland west, and then back down Razorback Road to Maple Street for the map. If you look at that, you just have to go 1 block north and back down to get over to the Chancellor's house, to the Fowler's house, and we look forward to seeing you there this evening at 6. Thank you.